Well, hello. Welcome to our stream. Thank you for joining us online. I'm Micah. I am the student ministry director here at Grace Church. I get the privilege and the excitement of being here with you guys for the next few weeks. I am very excited to be up here. I get to talk about one of my favorite books in the Bible. We're going to talk about Phillipians. But before we get into anything, I want to do a social experiment, if you will, if you'll indulge me. So wherever you are, whatever platform you're watching on, do me a favor and ask via text or email or call someone up really quick. You can pause this feed and ask someone this question. Ask them, what is the single most important thing you want out of life? What's the number one thing you want? Ready, go. And you can answer that as well if you want to down in the comments, or again, however you're watching this, just tell me what's the most important thing you want out of life. And that can be as general or specific as you want. If I were answering that, my answer would be something along the lines of, I want to be surrounded by people that I love and that love me. Right? I want to be around people, and I want to be in loving relationships with the people around me. Now, if you're like me and you're pretty people-oriented, you're pretty extroverted, you want something similar. You want to be around people, you want to love people, you'll maybe even point to Jesus. And you'll say something along the lines of, well, Jesus didn't tell us that people would know we're his disciples because of all the things we do, but rather how we love people. And you might be like me and answer something in a very people-oriented manner. You might be like me and be very people-oriented, and your answer might reflect that part of you. However, if you're in this other camp, I think 50% of your answers will fall into that. I think the other 50% will fall into something that sounds along the lines of, I want to achieve this goal. I want to be this successful in life. I want to do this thing. I want to, whatever it might be, it's very purpose-oriented. Right? It's very achieving. You might, again, even point to Jesus and say, we're here to build a kingdom. Right? Jesus uses parables that are about doing things, right? And it's not just about loving one another, but we gotta go and we gotta do some stuff. Not to earn God's love, because we know we can't do that, but because of the fruit that comes from our salvation. Or however you might phrase it, you might be a very purpose-oriented person, right? And I think that's what we fall into. One of those two. If you didn't fall into either one of those, justifiably, then let me know. I want to know what else, how other people function. But in my experience, those are the two camps. People and purpose-oriented. So, I see this in a lot of different ways. Right? I read an article online about it talked about going into workplaces and figuring out why people don't stay where they are for their career. Right? Why do people move around? Why do people quit their jobs and maybe move to something different, or jump whenever they get a different offer at a different company or whatever it might be? And money is definitely a thing that has a factor there. But the other reasons, other than money, came down to a few things. A lack of appreciation was one reason, right? They didn't have a people who appreciated what they were doing. They didn't have a community that were alongside them, encouraging them and pushing them towards this purpose. It was a people problem and a purpose problem. Another issue is people get burnt out, right? Whatever they're doing, whatever industry they're serving in, may that be some kind of food industry or offering some kind of good or service, whatever it might be, whatever they're doing is not quite in line with their purpose. And so they're going hard and they're putting forth a lot of effort, thinking if they put more effort in to this thing that's not their purpose, that they'll do better, but then they end up getting burnt out and end up doing worse. And so they leave. It's a purpose problem. Some people leave their place of work because of poor management. Now, I've lucked out in my adult career. Most of the places I've worked at, if not all, have had really stellar bosses. I know, however, that's the exception, not the rule. There's a lot of bad bosses out there that point fingers and direct things where they're not really leading, they're just bossing you around. And so maybe that might be you, then come to the Global Leadership Summit that we're going to have here in a month. But if you get the result of that, if you get the fruit of that, people are verbally abusive to you, you don't feel like you're a part of something, just being a pawn in this scheme, then this poor management causes you to have a people problem where you don't feel like you're following people, and you feel like you have a purpose problem because that's not what you're supposed to be doing. You're not called to be verbally abused daily, right? So it's a people problem and it's a purpose problem. Lack of clear goals, there's another one. That sounds like a purpose problem if there ever was one. Issues with coworkers, that sounds like a people problem if there ever was one. Lack of upward trajectory, sounds like a purpose problem. And the list goes on. That there are people problems and there are purpose problems that people move away from inherently. Because we know inside, maybe subconsciously, we know we need a people and we need a purpose. We need a people and we need a purpose. Even when event planning, let's say, because that's part of my job. If you didn't know, I'm student ministry director here, like I said, which means I take kids and do events. Part of that is, well, hey, teenager, come do this thing. Well, what are we doing? What's the purpose? Right, we're going to go have some fun. Also, who's going? Are my friends going? Because if they're going, then I'm there. And if it's something fun, then I'm there. And it kind of comes down to, are you people-oriented or purpose-oriented? Even as a teenager, they're people-oriented and they're purpose-oriented. Where if they're people-oriented, if they're best friends, I had a student come with us to our winter retreat in February. Not because it was the most well-organized, most fun thing that she had on her docket, but because I went out and I recruited her best friend to come, and so she came because her best friend is going. And so people are people-oriented people that do things because people do things, right? But if you're purpose-oriented, then maybe it's something that, like teenagers are also purpose-oriented sometimes, where I don't care who's going, but am I going to have fun while I'm going? Or am I going to be fulfilled wherever I'm going? And so we go up into the mountains and play in snow. Oh, if I'm purpose-oriented and that purpose is fun, I'm there because that sounds fun. Or we're going to go because we're going to really be poured into by the Spirit, by God. And they go, oh, I know that's part of my purpose. So that really draws me in and I'm going to go. And so I do event planning and the question comes up, what are we doing and who's going? Am I going to enjoy it? And are my friends going? Or even if you're at a stage of life, kind of like me, or maybe even a little bit younger, where you're kind of trying to figure out a couple things in life, right? You're not really sure about what life's going to look like. Primarily, two things. What are you going to be doing for the rest of your life? And who's going to be beside you? Right? Those are the two big quandaries of the college age student. That what's my career? What's my purpose? And who's my spouse going to be? Right? Who am I going to be dating? Right? What people am I going to be a part of? What's my purpose? What's my people? Really, when it comes down to it, it comes down to those two questions. Who are my people? And what is my purpose? Even in high school, I saw this leaving high school, seeing it in hindsight, seeing the things behind me, the relationships behind me. I had a friend in high school that our purpose, our shared purpose, we had a lot of classes together, our shared purpose was to get a diploma. Also to do good band things and play video games together. But we were friends because of our proximity, because we had this shared purpose of getting a diploma, right? But when we graduated, being that was our shared purpose, the purpose had been fulfilled. And so when we got that diploma, I don't know if I've really talked to him more than maybe once or twice. Doesn't mean that friendship's not there, but just maybe it's changed, right? It's not done for. I could probably call John up and have a conversation with him, but the way we were, the closeness we had was very proximity based, was our people sometimes based on our purpose, right? In the same way, I had a coworker whenever I was working at Buffalo Wild Wings. When I stopped working at Buffalo Wild Wings, guess what happened? I lost my purpose in Buffalo Wild Wings, and so those people, my coworkers at Buffalo Wild Wings, stopped being my people. However, these two things, while sometimes they seem independent, I'm either totally people-oriented or I'm totally purpose-oriented. These two things are actually not mutually exclusive, but they hold hands. They're mutually dependent on one another. And if one of those things is temporary, then the other is temporary. Right? If your purpose is to find out with this other person, if our purpose together is to find if we're going to have a long-term relationship that maybe leads to marriage, right? And that purpose is fulfilled by either getting married or breaking up. Your dating relationship, that purpose ends and the relationship changes, either for the good or for the bad, right? Maybe not bad, maybe for the good or for the awkward. But the purpose and the people, they're codependent. These two things are mutually dependent. For example, if in one of them being temporary, they're both temporary. If they're both eternal, if they're both long-term, if one of them is, the other one is. When I was in high school, I also had some friends, Jeffrey and Dallas. They are still some of my closest friends, even though we don't talk very much. One of them is a missionary in the Middle East, and one of them is a youth pastor in Tennessee. And we have this purpose together where we've done ministry. We did ministry together in high school. And so even now, while we don't necessarily do ministry in close proximity, we are of this same body of Christ that's doing ministry to people, right? And so I still, even though it's not very often, I still call them up and talk to them occasionally and see how their ministry is going, see how I can pray for them. Just a few months ago in September, I went to Dallas's wedding with Jeff. Right? It's a long-term relationship because this purpose of ministry, it's not temporary. It's not finite. It's infinite. It's eternal, right? We have this eternal community. And so, if one of them is temporary, the other one's going to be temporary too, because they're codependent. They're mutually dependent. And so, why do I say that? Why do I give you all of this information about codependence between these people-oriented people and these purpose-oriented people. And why are they mutually dependent? Like I said, I'm gonna talk through Philippians. It's one of my favorite books in the Bible, but I'm not gonna have time to go through all of them. Or all the chapters in Philippians. So if you want to, go do that. It's a great book. Love it. We're going to go through just chapter 1 just to catch a glimpse what it looks like to be a people with a purpose. And so, I'm going to be in Philippians chapter 1. I'm going to start in verse 3 and go through verse 11. Paul is talking to this group of people in Philippi. Okay, Paul, if you don't know who Paul was, he was this guy that persecuted and killed Christians, and then Jesus appeared to him, and he became the exact opposite. He started doing the exact opposite. He started making Christians, right? He planted like 20-something churches throughout Asia Minor and present-day Europe. And so this is who's writing. Paul's writing to this group of people in Philippi, with whom he shares his people and his purpose. These are his people, and they share a purpose. And this is what he says to them. He says, I thank God in all my remembrance of you, always in every prayer of mine, for you all, making my prayer with joy because of your partnership in the gospel from the first day until now. You know what that sounds like? That sounds like a really close people with a very emphatic purpose. They're a people with a purpose. And he goes on in verse 6, and I am sure of this, that he who began a good work in you will bring it to completion at the day of Jesus Christ. Sounds like very purpose-oriented language. He goes on in verse 7, it is right for me to feel this way about you all, because I hold you in my heart. Right? Sounds like he has a very affectionate people. For you are all partakers with me of grace, both in my imprisonment and in my defense and confirmation of the gospel. For God is my witness, how I yearn for you all with the affection of Christ Jesus. And it is my prayer that your love may abound more and more with knowledge and all discernment, so that you may approve what is excellent, and so be pure and blameless for the day of Christ, filled with its fruit of righteousness that comes through Jesus Christ, to glory and praise of God. He's so emphatic about this people and this purpose that as people read this, people smarter than you or I, theologians that have read this, and biblical historians that have read this, they look at it and they go, wow, he really likes these people, so much so that he loses all rules for grammar. He just kind of gets caught up in his emotion and his feeling for these people that are so affectionately and fervently doing this purpose. Right? And we're going to look at who these people are and what this purpose is in the upcoming weeks. But understand, he loves two things: these people and this purpose that he's doing. He's talking to a people with a purpose. And that's what we need. We need a people. But we don't just need a people, we need a purpose. We need a people, we need a purpose. And it doesn't matter who you are watching this or where you're watching from. It doesn't matter your social climate or the what you like or feel or do. You need a people and you need a purpose. In fact, God has given you at least half of that in giving you a purpose for when he created you. Right? That when he creates us, he gives us his purpose to do with his people. Right? So if you're watching this and if you're not from Albuquerque, New Mexico, I would encourage you, connect with us, sure, but find a local people who are about this purpose of building this kingdom. Right? And if you are local, then I have this whole lesson is really just one big announcement, really. If you've been here or watched our live service, our MCs, they do a good job of giving announcements. But really, if we do what they are presenting, plug in the way they're showing us, then we kind of understand this. Because if we're talking about just here at Grace Church, there are lots of ways to find out how to be this people with this purpose. And I'm also really excited because all of this that I'm teaching today and for the next 2 weeks, we have a lot of very practical, very tangible application that is kind of going along with these lessons. And so if you are here in the Albuquerque area, come hang out with us. We have a membership class coming up. If you want to find out more about our people and our purpose and try to figure out where you fit in, that's the perfect place to do so. It's right here at Grace, right down the hall, room 11, on the 17th, right after church. Free food. Need I say more? I should have probably started with free food. But that's where you find more about our people, our purpose. You can connect with us in that way. And just going doesn't mean you have to sign the dotted line and say, I am a Grace Church person, but rather it gives you more information to kind of synthesize and discern on your own if that's what you want to do. So you can connect with us by doing that. We have some places online. You can check us out, gracechurchabq.org. You can text the number that was on your screen a little bit ago. You can come, you can serve. There are lots of ways to very practically be this people with a purpose. That you come and you be a part of Grace Church. It's not just Grace Church. Again, if you're not in the Albuquerque area and you're in some other state or even nation and you want to find a people, you can still be a part of the body of Christ. That's this people, this grander idea of God's people that you can be a part of. But if you're here and you're at Grace, you can do all of these things with us. We have all of these avenues already in place, set up for you. You can join, you can talk to our adult ministries director, Bryn, who does a bunch of adult small groups. Not necessarily leads them all, but coordinates them to where if there's a time and place that works best for you, you can just join one. You can go and you can be a part of that people. And if you need a place to really have a deeper purpose than whatever you're experiencing now, there are a lot of places here at Grace that can use you. I can use, if you like having fun and you're okay with teenagers, I can use you in student ministry. If you can pull a wagon with kids from the parking lot to the kids ministry, you can join our wagon brigade. That sounds pretty fun to me. And if you're pretty technical, pretty handy, Brian can always use a few hands keeping things clean, keeping things fixed. We do ministry and we do ministry hard. And so you can talk to him and figure out how to help with him. There's lots of places based on your spiritual gifts, based on your likes, your dislikes. Let me tell you, if you're here today joining me online, and if you don't really know if you believe in Jesus, or if you know, in fact, you don't believe in Jesus, then there's still a place for you. I don't need you to be a Christian to help me set up a game. Ben doesn't need you to be a Christian necessarily to play drums or guitar. You can be with us and you can belong with us before you believe like us. We can use you. God can still use you. And so, if you're here at Grace or in Albuquerque, come plug in. And if you're not, find somewhere you can. You can find all of that, again, you can find all of that information on our app, on our website, and you can find a place that fits you. And that's how we start. That's how we start figuring out what this people with a purpose looks like. Because eventually we realize that this people, this purpose, it's not just exclusive to these four walls around me. It's not just exclusive to this building I'm in, but rather that people, that purpose can be carried with us to our job, our school, our family, wherever we might be. Our purpose can still be fulfilled and our people can still be present. And so that's how we start, because we need a people and we need a purpose. So let's strive to be that. Let's strive to be a people with a purpose. God, thank you for today. Thank you for your son. Thank you for making us a unified people, a community that loves and supports one another. And thank you for giving us a purpose, that we don't just sit around and sing songs and learn new information, God, but you've given us a direction, you've given us a purpose, you've given us a mission to do. And so I pray that as we explore that it becomes clear to us that we can be fulfilled in that we can chase that and really fulfill who you've made us to be. And so thank you. I pray this all in your name. Amen. Thank you, guys.